Hey everybody, today we're talking about organizing your Final Cut projects. It's something that's really easy to do as long as you know what you're doing. Let's get into it. My name is Patrick and I've been using Macs for many years and Final Cut for the past few years. And one thing I learned really early on about my Mac was I needed to understand how the storage, how the organization of the Mac worked, because it saved me tons of headaches in the future. You see, it's not uncommon for me to work with somebody that opens up their computer and stares at an app they've used so many times and go, where's my stuff? Where's my music? It used to be in the music app. Where's my movies? Or where's my footage? It used to be in Final Cut. And I look back at them and I say the same thing every time. Final Cut never had your footage. The music app never had your music. Insert app name here never had your insert file type here. You see, apps don't store things. Apps reference things. And when you start using Final Cut, if you don't understand how that storage works, you will experience some pain later on. So today, we're talking about how to organize your Final Cut Pro project so that you never lose anything. And for that, we need to hop over to my computer. Now, to start working in Final Cut, I need to move down to my dock or to my applications folder and open Final Cut, right? So I go down to my dock here, which is where Final Cut always is for me. I open Final Cut and I see this pretty daunting interface that if you spend some time with or watch some YouTube tutorials on, you will slowly but surely, or sometimes quickly, become very comfortable with. And if I'm starting something new in almost any app, I go to the File menu and I select New. Now, when you select New in Final Cut Pro, there are many new things you create. And I suggest for every video you make, you create a new library. Not a new project, a new library. You see, a library stores all of your information. And if you know for a fact that you're doing a YouTube series or a video series on how to play the guitar, it makes sense to create a library called My Guitar Tutorials and then create multiple projects in that library. But since I'm a YouTuber that creates individual videos and not a ton of series, almost every single one of my videos has its own library and its own project and its own footage. And I don't use that footage anywhere else. I don't use that project's images anywhere else or audio anywhere else. So I put it in its own library. Every single one of my projects has its own library. So I'm going to go New Library. What do I want to name the library? Now I want to stop here for a second because I could name this library and show you how to create it, but I want to actually back up a little bit. Before we create inside of Final Cut Pro, I want to talk about collecting your footage. Remember, we're not collecting our footage and it's stored inside of Final Cut Pro. Final Cut is referencing our footage from somewhere else. And unless you bought a computer with a very large internal storage capacity, you're probably going to be working with one of these, some sort of external hard drive. Now, this is a Samsung T7. It's a very popular little external drive. It's a solid state drive. It's very, very fast. So here it is. I have the Patrick SSD solid state drive plugged into my machine. And this is where our organization starts. I click on my drive here, I go to YouTube, and I see the current projects I'm working on, as well as completed projects. So inside of completed here, I have a new MacBook Pro features video, a YouTube video ideas video. And my current projects are a portable studio using a C-stand, Rode Central updates, a subscribe link, and you'll notice that each one of my projects has a date in front of it. So I'm going to create a new folder for the new project we are creating. Remember, I haven't even opened up Final Cut yet. This is where our organization starts. So I go down here, Shift Command N or File, New Folder, and that untitled folder I'm going to date. So just like every other project, I've typed in the date, 2022-01.17, and I'm going to call this video, just for our sake, My Organized Project. There we go. So I've created a folder called My Organized Project. Now, from here, we're going to create some subfolders. The first folder we're going to create, Final Cut. You see, when we open up a new Final Cut library and create a new Final Cut project, Final Cut does some things in the background that are both frustrating and beneficial. Most Apple apps do things for you that are helpful.
Help me! Help me, Rod. Help me! Help you.
But if you don't know what they're doing, down the line, it can get really, really frustrating. So when you import footage into Final Cut Pro to begin creating a project, it actually creates some additional footage that is way easier to edit and way easier to render down so that working with your project happens really, really quick. Now, this is a great feature, but if you didn't know that was happening, you'll start to think, why is my space being taken up? What is happening? I only loaded in a couple of clips into Final Cut recently. Well, Final Cut's creating additional clips which take up more space, which again, great feature, but if you don't know about it, it can get frustrating because you're taking up all of this extra space and you have no idea where it's coming from. But instead of just letting Final Cut put that information wherever it wants, I create a Final Cut folder in my project. My second subfolder I'm going to create is going to be called Footage. Now, this is where I'm going to dump all of my video footage, maybe even some of my audio footage. I'm going to create another folder called Deliverables. Now, this is when I am done with my project. Maybe I want to export a TikTok version of my video, an Instagram Reels version of my video, a full-frame YouTube version of my video. Whatever I'm exporting from this project I create, it goes here. Again, all within that same folder, so I'm never looking for anything. I create another folder called Images. I create another folder called Audio. And that's just about it. Right from here, I have every single piece of information. It has a place to go. Remember, I haven't opened up Final Cut yet. I'm doing this on an organizational level before I open Final Cut. So let's go ahead and drop some information into these folders. Now, when you're filming YouTube videos, obviously you are using a camera unless you have a faceless channel. And when you record that video, it probably dumps onto an SD card like this. I take that SD card, I plug it into my Mac. But that's just my video. Almost everyone who's recording higher quality video also has additional audio sources. As a matter of fact, you can't see it, but right here I have a mic here that's an overhead boom mic. I also have this mic in front of me that's recording more direct audio. And a lot of times I plug those audio sources into something like this. Very popular little device, a Zoom recorder. This is the H4n Pro. And it takes the audio signal from those microphones and dumps, once again, onto an SD card. So at this point, I'm taking tons of SD cards and I'm loading them into my computer, and I am putting video into the footage folder. I'm putting audio into the audio folder. I'm putting images that I want to use with this project in the images folder, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and dump some footage in here and we'll move on.
2,000 years later.
So in the My Organized project, I have the audio folder, which shows me my audio tracks. I see the deliverables folder, which shows me nothing because I haven't delivered anything yet. I see my Final Cut folder, which has nothing in it yet because I still haven't created my project. My footage folder, which has my video in it, and my images folder, which has an image inside of it. So let's say this is all of the content that I want to use to create this Final Cut project. Let's go ahead and finally open Final Cut. So I move over here to Final Cut, File, New, Library. And I'm going to title this library the same thing that I'm going to title my project. And remember, this can be just a working title. You can always change this in the future. 2022-01.17- My Organized Project. Now remember, I don't want to just throw this into my folder. I want to put it in my Final Cut folder. Because what Final Cut is going to do is it's going to reference this folder where the library exists, and anything it wants to add, anything it wants to create to make the editing process more snappy, it's going to do that within this folder. So I click on Save. So a new library has been created. This is our library here. So as you can see, Final Cut has done the very Apple thing of giving us some things to work with, saying, hey, don't you want this? Don't you want a Smart Collections folder? No. Command D, I want to get rid of that. And then I'm going to create some events. This one that just has the date name, I'm going to click on it. It's going to highlight the text. I'm going to call that one Footage. Option in, I'm creating a new event. It says, where do you want to put it? Well, in this library. Audio. So I've created an audio event. I've created a footage event. Option in, I'm creating an images event. See what I'm doing? All of those subfolders that I created, audio, footage, images, I'm creating events for those folders in Final Cut Pro. So if I ever acquire video footage for this project, I put it in my footage folder. If I create or gain audio for this project, I put it in the audio folder. So it's organized exactly where it needs to be, but then I just click and drag it into the event that it corresponds with in Final Cut. So here is my footage folder. I take both of these video clips and drag them over the footage event. Now it's going to start importing these into Final Cut. Here they are right there. Go back and where's my audio? Track 1, track 2, put that in the audio event. And then images, I put in the images event. You see, if you didn't create your own little subfolders that correspond with these events, and you just start dragging stuff into your Final Cut project, it will store those things for you, which is great. If you're brand new to video editing and you don't want to deal with any of that organization, Final Cut says, hey, we'll deal with it for you. And let's be honest, if you have a project that's kind of large, eventually you will work outside the bounds of those folders you created. But if you stay as organized as possible on the front end of your project, it's going to help you.
Help me help you.
It's going to help you in the long run. Because what normally happens, let's actually talk about everybody else who's not organizing their projects well. What normally happens is you think to yourself, well, I want to throw in this image I found online. So you download that image and you just drag it into Final Cut. Your project looks great. You haven't finished it, but it's starting to look great. And then you start doing some cleanup on your computer and you see that image, you go, what's that? You delete it. Well, guess what? Since you deleted it, Final Cut Pro doesn't know where to access that information anymore. So what you're left with is next time you open up your Final Cut project, it'll say, that image that you added here, we can't reference it. It's gone. We don't know where it is. You're gonna have to find that image again, download it again, add it to your project again and say, here it is, here it is. But if we keep everything organized in all of these subfolders, all we have to do whenever we want to move our project to a new computer or to an external hard drive is take this one folder called My Organized Project and move it wherever we want. Because we know that all the things we've added to Final Cut are in these subfolders. So now that we've added all of this data to Final Cut from our subfolders into these events, I'm going to add a couple more events that aren't going to reference these subfolders at all, that are strictly held within Final Cut. So once again, I'm going to hold down my Option key and hit N to create a new event. I'm going to create a projects folder. And then I'm going to hit Command N to create a new project. So we have our library at the top here. Before I create that project, we have our library at the top here. And underneath that library, we have all of these events. And within these events, we find items like projects or footage or audio or images, almost anything we create. So once again, Command N. I'm going to create a new project, and I like to title the project with the same exact title I gave my first folder that I created. My Organized Project. Boom. One quick thing, if you're finding this content helpful, just go ahead and click that subscribe button. I would love for you to see some of the cool videos we have coming out in the near future. All right, back to it. So now I've created a project, so below here I see a timeline where I can start taking things and adding it to my project. So first things first, I'm just gonna go to some footage here, and I'm gonna drag and drop this video of me talking to the camera. I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna drag this image that I'm gonna put here for some reason of me looking, well, honestly, terrifying. Now, obviously, all of these items that I've added to this project, they're out of order. If I push play on this project, it would sound like a garbled mess, but I just wanna show you when I add some things to a project, what happens when Final Cut can't find those things. Let's say I'm one of these people that starts using Final Cut and I don't organize things appropriately and I just start dragging and dropping things into my project. What happens when one of those items moves? So let me go back to my subfolders here. And this photo right here, I'm gonna find it in my subfolder. So I'm going to go here into my, library folder, my Final Cut folder, and then I'm going to go to the images folder, and I'm just going to move this image somewhere. I'm not even going to move it off of my external drive. I'm not even going to move it out of that library folder I created. I'm just going to drag it out of the images folder and watch what happens. If I move back here to Final Cut, it's going to say missing file. I know exactly where the file is, I see where the file is, but since I moved it out of that place that Final Cut was referencing, it goes, I don't know where that is anymore. So for such an intelligent application, it can kind of be dumb when it comes to finding things, but you can't blame Final Cut. You moved the item, and it was referencing that item from a specific location. If I go back and move that image back into the images folder and click back on Final Cut, boom, it reappears. Boom, 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 boom. So this is why we want to be organized right from the beginning, so that Final Cut can reference a specific area and find the things it needs quickly. Now, let's just take this one step further. Why is this important? Why is this organizational system important for us, not only in the short term, but for the long term? Long story short, you're not going to keep the same computer, you're not going to keep the same external devices for the rest of your life. And I don't know about you, maybe you edit Final Cut projects and then delete them immediately. I don't do that. I actually keep projects for a long time and reference them years down the road, months down the road, or sometimes never at all, but I just like to keep all of the footage. So what happens when this folder moves to a new device? Well, Patrick, if you move the folder, Final Cut is going to say it's missing all the information, it's not going to be able to open. You're exactly right. But I'm going to show you why keeping all this information is actually a helpful thing to allow you to move your project folders wherever you want in the future. So here's what I'm going to do. I've still got that folder, 2022-01-17, my organized project. I've still got it in my YouTube folder. I'm just going to move it right down here, just onto my main Patrick SSD here. So I've still got all my folders here, except I've moved this folder somewhere new. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Final Cut Pro once again. How am I going to do that? I'm going to, in this folder here, I'm going to go to my Final Cut folder, and I'm going to double click on the 2022-01-17 My Organized Project. Now this is kind of terrifying. When I open up this project now, it gives me this prompt that's pretty scary. It says, some storage locations for the library 2022-01-17 My Organized Project are unavailable. Well, they're all unavailable because I moved the entire folder. So Final Cut is saying, I don't know where to look for this. I've looked in the one place where all of this information should be. It's not there. So it's saying, do one of the following. Connect the storage location and click, hey, check for this information again. We already have our storage location connected. I've just moved that folder so it doesn't know where it is. Set a new storage location for the library, or click on Close Library. So you can say, hey, here's all my info, or give a new place to store the info, or just quit altogether. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say media. Where is it storing the media? Choose. I'm going to go to that folder. I'm going to say this project here. Final Cut, that's where I want the information to be stored, all the media that Final Cut is creating. Choose. And then I say, okay. Now it allows me to open the project, but still everything is missing. We're going to fix that right away. I click on the library name in Final Cut Pro. I click on the file menu from Final Cut Pro. I click on relink files. And what am I relinking? The original media. Now, this is where Final Cut says, this is all the info I'm missing. Remember, we moved that folder, so Final Cut can't find anything. So I'm saying I want to locate all of this stuff, because guess what? I know exactly where it is. Locate all. It says, great, where is it? Now, I could select just my entire solid state drive. Just search the entire thing, it's all there. I could select the actual project folder here, or this library folder that we created. Regardless, I select choose. It searches the area where I know exactly where the stuff is. It's found every single thing. And then I select relink files. And just like magic, all of it populates again. So again, not only is this a great short-term organization solution for Final Cut so that Final Cut knows where everything is while you're working on a project, but down the line, if you move this folder with all of your Final Cut footage, audio, information, if you move it somewhere else, you're able to relink all those files when you open it up again and Final Cut says, "Where is everything? I have no idea what you're doing." So if you are using Final Cut for the first time, or maybe you've never organized your projects before, here's an easy way to do it. Now, you may use different event names than me. You may use different folder names than me. That's okay. Just remember, applications don't store your data. They reference your data. So knowing where that data is referenced, knowing where it is organized, is only going to help you in the long run. Boom! Like this video, comment your questions, comment your suggestions, subscribe to my channel, share this video with a friend who's making movies, and I will see you in the next one.